All right, I think I'm live. I always get confused by this process. The last time that I went live, I thought I was live, and then the privacy was apparently turned to private so that I was not actually live. I was just like, it's fine. No one wants to watch my stream. It's fine. So this time, if I have zero watchers, it's because I have zero watchers, not because I forgot to go public. But today, what we are doing is I have this project. The title is main character dress underscore 4 because it's the fourth version that I've worked on. I actually built this dress completely from scratch the first time, and then I went on to another project and I accidentally saved over it, which is the first time I've ever done that. It was really sad because I'm trying to create less files in my process because they're messy, and so I'm working on my file organization. So I'm like, I'm not going to save this as a new file. Like, I don't need to. I haven't done enough progress. And then yeah, I completely saved over it. But it's interesting because the time it takes to make a project has more to do with learning how to make that project as you're going than the time it actually takes to make it. So when I remade this dress, not only does I think it looks better than the first one, but it took way less time. So there you go. It wasn't a total loss. So what I have here is this little 1940s dress. I'm trying not to have it be like too fashionable because it's for a character. I have my reference down here. Let me just make sure that I'm pretty sure I can hear myself. Yes, okay, just checking on my sound. Okay, so I have this dress down here. This is my rendering. She doesn't have a name. Her name is main character. She's kind of like a more rural kind of girl, but she's living in Paris during World War II. That's about all I'm going to say about that. Love the name main character down here. So yeah, so in order to kind of get to this point, this is the metahuman, like the base metahuman model for Unreal, in her kind of basic pose. And I actually found this pattern. This is you might be familiar with her if you've done like a lot of theater costumes in this period, but her name is Mrs. Depew. She sells these patterns. They're vintage reproductions, and this is a particular system that that she sells. She has a couple different kinds, and most of them are like printed in old magazines, so they're extant patterns. And this one, you're supposed to be able to use like a block of some sort that you then draft the pattern from. So, but I just plopped this little diagram right in here and started tracing it to see if it would work, and I think it looks pretty good. So I definitely, you can see when I lay this underneath, let's see, translucent surface. When I lay this underneath, it took some time to figure out like what scale I wanted it in, and also just like how this pattern works. But you can see kind of how I've edited it since it was in here. I guess it lines up like this. So maybe I didn't have the scale right. Oh, I did a lot of work just to get this to fit the metahuman model, who is actually rather busty, which we love for her, but I think that is why like this in the fitting process, you can see some of the baselines from when I was fitting to her. That I believe is what kind of creates more space in the bust area, plus adding to the side seam here, adding some length there. So that's what I've done so far. The hardest part of this pattern, I think, has been actually getting these gathers to lay nicely in the front here. So I definitely spent some time like really fussing with that. There's like a little belt that I decided and I think that's what the pattern is saying. I decided that it's like kind of an extra little fabric belt that goes over, which I think will be helpful because then we can take it off. We can make like maybe like a leather belt for her as she kind of upgrades through her journey. Let's see. Oh, have I added? Yeah. Does she have pockets yet? Yeah, she does have pockets. Where are they? Right there and there. Okay, great. And oh yeah, so I added those pockets. I took some height out of the sleeve cap because I didn't really want her to be so fashionable. I kind of wanted her to be a little bit more humble in appearance, but it's still got some of that 1940s kind of kick up. I didn't end up putting a dart back here. There's still those darts there. So for the most part, this pattern is trued. I'm looking at the sewing lengths now, and I've set the length difference to 0.125 because my decision on how true something can be is or how something can be off is 1/8 of an inch. So there you go. That's what that is. And the only places that are red are the where the sleeve cap is gathered into the sleeve up here above those notches. And I did play for a while on kind of like where the cap is. I think that this avatar stands kind of awkwardly with her shoulders back, and that definitely affects how the sleeve is set. Let's see, let's maybe look at show internal lines. Oh, they are shown. Oh, I don't have one down the top, but I wonder what that would look like if I did. So just putting that in there, like a little balance line in the sleeve just to see what's happening. Yeah, it's still kind of kicked back pretty far, which is weird because I've rotated it forward so much already, but I'm gonna go ahead and leave it there because I think it looks fine. And ultimately, the funny thing about making costumes for VR as opposed, or any kind of video game, as opposed to making them for people that are going to wear them in real life, is you can really get away with a lot. Like, she doesn't actually have to be able to lift her arms above her head because she's not going to be dancing some absurd number in a musical. She if she does need to lift her arms to like do whatever which thing, like the polygons will just stretch. I don't know, the weight painting will make it fine. It'll be fine. That being said, on that note, one thing that is really different between making clothes, especially historical clothes, for characters in VR as opposed to, or any digital environment, as opposed to real life, is ease, especially style ease, is really difficult to simulate in a game setting because it essentially has to be weight painted to follow the movement of the body. So it basically, like, the sleeve is going to make relatively the same movement that the arm is going to make. Or else it has to have its own rigging. So you have to be like, well, the sleeve, when the arm moves forward, the sleeve's going to move, backwards, or it's going to move in, depending on how fabric would typically move. And that's very complicated and a little bit beyond the scope of this particular project. So anytime that fabric is standing away from the body, I know that there's a risk of it looking really terrible in VR, which, so for those of you who are not as familiar with video game design, that is why so many video game costumes are skin tight, because simulating or animating the movement of a fabric in a game takes time, and until only recently wasn't even that possible. So there you go. We're just going to hope for the best here anyway. All right, so what else is going on here? I've got some little tucks in the sleeves. I'm not sure if I like how tall those are, but I'm gonna wait to see this in the fabric that I'm going to use it in before I make any adjustments. About knee length, we've got a really nice hem on her. You can see I've still got, oh, those are like lines that I used for placing the pockets. That's what those are. So yeah, it actually is fitting pretty nicely. But I do find that, like, I kind of hit a point where I've looked at this as much as I can, and I really need to start moving into the finishing phase before I, to identify other issues of fit. So, like, there kind of comes a point where I've seen it too much. I'm not identifying any new problems, so I should just keep moving forward. And there's still opportunity to kind of go back and fix things, although it is not as easy. One thing I started doing before I started this stream, when I was like, maybe I should stream this, is I offset, let's see if you can see a little bit better. I offset the center front line of the dress 1/2 of an inch. And when I did that, I made an internal line. And that internal line then becomes the center line. I went ahead and just sewed it as I prepare for putting buttons on, but you can see, like, let me go ahead and simulate. That's kind of a little overlap. That's going to be my button placket. I don't know yet if I'm going to actually do a true fold under for that button placket. It certainly will look better, but it will create more topology that I will then have to delete later on. But you know what? She's a main character, so let's just go ahead and do it. So that's one thing we'll do. I also want to create a facing, because even though, again, it's something that I'm going to delete because it's a lot of extra polygons for, you know, we don't need those. And anytime you have kind of two layers working together, they have to be weight painted exactly the same or else they don't move right. But it'll help this garment look more realistic in the meantime. So I'm going to do that. I have to figure out some way to create a hem on this sleeve. I don't really know how I would do this in real life because of these tucks here. I don't know if I would hem the sleeve and then put the tucks in, or maybe the sleeve has a facing that doesn't include the tucks. I bet that's what I'm going to do. Let's just say that we're gonna make a little bias facing for the sleeve. I don't know if it'll work. I've never done it before, but we'll try that. I want to make this belt double-sided. Again, I'm just going to delete the other side anyway, but I'm going to use some tricks so that when I do delete the other side, it doesn't just still look completely flat. I'm going to add some top stitching. So I've got my reference here, and I've indicated a few places where the top stitching is. I think, let's see, there's some top stitching on this pattern, which is really cute, that I'm going to try to emulate. And then I have some more references here that I'm using too. I don't know if they're good enough images that I can see top stitching from. I usually, about this point, I realize that I'm like, oh, I really need either like a physical dress to look at, or just like a better picture, a really good picture of an extant garment. So if we get to that point, you know what, we'll go look for something together. That'll be fine. What else am I going to do? Oh, I'm going to add buttons, and the buttons that I'm going to add, I made custom because I wanted better topology in the buttons, because if there's one place we don't want to waste our polygon budget, it's buttons. So I'm going to bring those into CLO, make a custom button. And yeah, we'll add a hem to the bottom, and we'll just see kind of where it goes from there. We'll see how much endurance I have on this session. It's quite exhausting to talk about what you're doing while you're doing it. So we'll see how it goes. All right, in the meantime, if you have any questions, if you want to give me some advice, please feel free to type it in the chat, and I'll be looking at that. So I'm to the point where it would actually really benefit me to, one, see it simulated in the fabric that it would be made out of, because right now it's just default fabric, and two, start applying some textures so that it helps, so I can see like maybe where more mistakes are, or I get a sense of the grain line too. I'm not going to texture in CLO. I'm going to do it in Substance Painter, so I won't actually use these textures, but it'll help me in the meantime. So for textures, I actually have a subscription to VMod, and I really like it. It's like fabric shopping in real life, and it's just nice to have a place where I can go and all of the fabrics are good quality. They all have, or not all of them, some of them have both like the garment simulation file that you would use in CLO to make it act like, say, voile or and then they also have the texture file as a texture pack, so like PBR, like base color, normal, etc. And then they have the substance material file, which is really helpful. And it's a nice quality and really easy to edit. So that it's just nice to have like one plate. Even though I pay for these, it's just saves so much time, and I actually really enjoy looking around. Something that is funny is I don't really understand their naming convention. Like, why is this jacquard, and like, why is this tweed? Like, I don't know. I sometimes feel like they kind of make up names that I don't really relate to. Maybe I just don't know something that they do. But and so you can sort it by fabric type, woven, knits, composition, so what material, like acrylic or nylon, characteristics, yeah, things like fancy yarn, or like, what does that mean? And then the different patterns and the weights. So I did spend some time this morning trying to find the perfect fabric, and I think I found it. It's not, the color that I want, but I can always change that. But I think the quality of the plaid is going to really work well for this character, and it's 100% cotton. It comes with the ZFab file, which is what you put in CLO, and it comes with the SBZAR, which is the substance file. So I downloaded those two files, and let's go ahead and put them in. So I'm just clicking on fabric 1, and for the way the fabric acts, that's at the very bottom, physical property. I'm just gonna click this folder, and then it's plaid tartan, I believe that is what it is, ZFab file. So let's go ahead and open that, and go ahead and see when we simulate how that changes things. Oops. So that, yeah, kind of helps shrink it up a little bit, has a little bit more structure. We're getting more defined wrinkles. That's actually really lovely. I'm pretty happy with the way that looks. There's something going on here, but I'll investigate that in a little bit. Okay, so there's that. And then now to get the plaid texture, I'm going to click back in that fabric 1 again. And then right here where it says material, I'm going to switch it from PBR to substance. And then that'll open up, this kind of cool thing. I can just click this folder and then find it, the plaid tartan. And then it brings it in at any which scale that it decides to. I usually find that it's pretty big. So I'm gonna switch this to thick textured surface so I can see it. And it looks weird because of the opacity. If there's any playing with opacity in the texture file, the CLO preview window has a really hard time understanding what's happening. So it just says, okay, it's somewhat sheer ? But no, it's not. It's just, it has an opacity map, so it's sheer in between the fibers. It doesn't really get that, but if we went to render and chose render, click here to start the interactive render, we'll be able to see what the fabric actually looks like. So yeah, it looks fine. So in the meantime, we just kind of have to deal with it kind of looking weird. Oh, she only has one pocket ? Or what happened to her other pocket? I feel like she does have two, but one is hiding maybe. Cute though, looking good, girl. All right, let's close out of that. And then I'm gonna go back to my options here, and just because the scale, I'm gonna go ahead and adjust the scale really quick. I'm gonna leave the color alone for now because it doesn't bother me. So transformation, scale, let's try 50. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, so that gives me a sense of how the grain is playing. I kind of thought about putting center front on the straight of grain so that these would go straight up and down, but to be completely honest, that's not how the pattern works. It kind of adds in this little like moment. I also think it's actually a very flattering look, and it's a very I really like how these patterns are playing with each other. So I'm not going to straighten out center front. And then it kind of creates this V with the skirt. So I think that's pretty cute. I'm gonna leave this on thick textured surface until I get annoyed with it. So anyway, that's how I add that fabric in. So let's go ahead and start working on the facings. Okay, so how big of buttons do I have? I guess I just assumed that I would use 1/2 inch buttons, but I actually think a 3/8 inch button would be cuter. I might just reel this back in to be, because I like to make the, the little extra offset for my button placket to be the same width as the button, because I think that's an attractive look. Let's put the button in and then we'll decide. So button, default button. If I add a button in now, it'll just be this button. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. Let's see. Let's be very specific. Count our buttons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That seems like a good amount of buttons. There's like 3 here and 4 there. Let's see what that looks like in reality. So there's my button tool, and oh my god, this is the best thing ever. I have those button spacers in real life where they're like accordions that you stretch, and it like, you say, oh, here's my first button, here's my second button. You stretch the accordion and then it like meets the first button and then the second button and then tells you where all the other buttons are. Sometimes it doesn't work because it doesn't equally expand and squish. And also, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, then there's absolutely no way I can describe this to you. The amount of times I've tried to explain this tool to a student without having one on hand, it's just confusing, so never mind. My point is, placing buttons in CLO is so nice, and I never want to have to do it any other way ever again. So here we go. All right, let's do some figuring out which side the buttons go on. They go on this side, so that they can go through the buttonholes on the other side. So start position, let's go ahead and see what happens if I say it starts 0.375 from the top, and then let's put, I guess, just an interval, let's see, 1 inch, and then there's 3 buttons. Okay, so how far can we get up? 1.5. Let me go a little bit further, 1.75. That's not bad, and when they're smaller, I think it'll be better, but then the next one's gonna start pretty close. So what is math? Oh wait, no, I'm not thinking about that. Okay, let's just say 1.75 distance. Okay, and then I actually don't really know how to figure out how far that was from the bottom. Maybe I should do it the other way. Let's see what happens if I just put one here and then start 0.375 from the top. 1.75. How many can we get in here? 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's not bad. They are awkwardly. Oh, that one is under the waistband. And those 2 are awkwardly spaced. So how about 1.5? And then let's go. Yeah, and then let's just throw in an X. No, we can only do 4. Okay. You guys, I am not even kidding. This is what takes most of my time. I'm like, but it has to be beautiful, perfect numbers. And then I spend 10 years just doing that. So it's the bane of my existence. Okay, 1.5. That's not too bad. Let's, yeah. Let's maybe make this 0.5 and see. Okay. Let's just leave it there, and then now you can see, yeah, that's the default button. So if I click the default button, I want to add my custom button in now. I just click this little plus arrow next to shape, and then in this impossible to see little icon here, I press that, and then I'm going to go find my, in my notions area, I made this little button in Blender, and I'm very proud of it. It's not that special, but it does have good topology, and so I am proud of it for that. And it's not really important for me to like put any specifications in here yet, so because I can just change it later. So I'm just gonna click OK. I checked mesh because that says that that's the button. If there was thread and it was on a different mesh, I could like choose thread and then choose the mesh, which I have another button that I can do that on. But I think I want these to be kind of like little pearl buttons. So I'm using my covered button that I made. Okay, let's get that. And so it's going to think about it for a hot sec. And, oh, look how small they are. Okay, that's the size that they came in as. We can change that over here. Width, 1 inch. Let's try 0.375 for 3/8 inch. Oh, sweet. That's so precious. Oh, that's so cute. Oh, I love that. Just for fun, let's see what 0.5 looks like. 0.5. It's a little bit, I don't love it as much. I'm just gonna say it. It's a little bit more theatrical. If I had to see this from off stage, I'd be like, ah, those are the perfect buttons. But we don't. I don't actually, to be fair, I don't really know how this game totally works. If you are in first-person view or third-person view, like this is information I definitely should have, for sure. But I don't, because now that I'm thinking of it, I really should be focusing more on the back of the garment if it was if it's in third person view, because that's mostly what you see. And in that case, like I probably should put I should have designed the buttons on the back so that you had more detail on the back. But you know what? It's very funny. Point. I'm sure there's a button in between those two that would also be fine, but I'm not gonna worry about it. I don't mind that overlap, but let's just see what it looks like. I'm gonna, instead of like moving this over, I'm gonna offset the pattern again because it'll maintain the angle that it came out as. So offset pattern outline 0.125 inches. All I'm doing is retracting that so that reducing the button, the amount that I added for the button placket, because I kind of changed my mind on how big this button should be. Okay, now let's look. Oh, yeah, don't simulate yet because you haven't put buttonholes in. That's really sweet. That's really, really sweet. Let's go ahead and convert those to buttonholes. I'm pretty sure like that spacing looks good between here and here. Like if anything, I could add a little bit more, but I would probably do it like bump it down from the top, and I can always change it later. Thank God. Okay, so right click those, duplicate as buttonhole to symmetric pattern. That's a giant buttonhole. We're gonna have to customize that. So let's actually do that before. So for 3/8 button, and also do I want them going up and down, or do I want them going, you know, it looks like you can, side note, looks like you can add custom buttonhole. Oh, and it comes in as the form of an image, because yeah, the buttonholes don't actually have any topography, they don't have any geometry, they're just an image file. And I learned this recently, when you export them out of CLO, like a garment, you, in order to get the buttonholes, which I don't know, I didn't realize this before, you have to export a image file. And if we get that far today, which I seriously doubt we will, because I'm talking way too much, but maybe I'll do a little follow-up later. What was I saying? Oh, I'll show you how to export that image map so that it has that buttonhole on it, because it's just really annoying to have to make all the buttonholes again and line them up perfectly in Substance Painter. So I've actually found recently that my workflow is a lot easier if I just do as much as I can in CLO. It also makes it easier to like make more renditions of like, oh, I want the same garment, but I want like the 2 buttons unbuttoned at the top, to be able to just go back, undo the buttons, and then have less work on the other side. Okay, so I don't mind the buttonhole presets that CLO has. So I'm just going to pick one of those. And then change the width of that to 0.5. and then I think these will look a lot better if they are vertical. So to do that, I actually have to click the buttonholes themselves. I can't really just do it. Actually, you know, I probably can do it here. But I think it depends on how like the button actually sits in the buttonhole. So we're going to do it over here, the edit buttonhole tool, right click, or just click those buttons actually, shift click. Oh, and these ones I probably want to line up even like that way. So I'm just gonna actually rotate this until those are on line, and 82 looks like literally the perfect angle. So that's great. And then this one should be 90. This one, and this one. I'm just type in 90. There you go. Done. And now we need to button them. So, button, 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 button. There we go. Simulate. And they're really going to town here. So this happens a lot. Usually what I do is like, you know, maybe give it some time, some space to like figure itself out. But then also, I will just stop simulation, edit button. Oops. Oh, that was, I saved. Select all my buttons, right click, reset 3D position, and that should fix some things. If it doesn't, then right click, deactivate the buttons, simulate, and then the garment can relax. Stop simulation, right click, reset 3D position, and then try again. And, oh, then I guess, oops, activate. Let's see. Okay, now you are acting up. I'm going to delete these sewing lines underneath because it's possible that those are competing. And yeah, that seems pretty good. Chloe's definitely gotten better in the stability of simulating buttons, which is really nice. Okay, here's the thing, you guys. Here's my honest truth. The button placket is, you know, you would think where you get into the garment. Right now it ends here. Like I did not actually render any, not even a seam beneath the waist. How does this garment go on and off, I ask you? Here's another great thing about designing clothes for video games. You don't have to worry about it, question mark, but you actually probably should because it adds a level of realism. Because that ends, I would really like this because she's like, I don't know, like a kind of, you know, like a character from like a rural area. I would really like if, it felt like it was a practical, like I would really like these buttons to feel used and worn, and so, you know, in that sense, maybe I should continue the buttons down further. But it's also so cute to end there, so we could also just be a little invisible, or maybe like a lapped zipper in the side, which, to be fair, I can add a little like lapped zipper, you know, add some top stitching there. So if I think about it, I'm gonna keep thinking about it if I'm gonna make a different design choice, or if I'm gonna adhere to the ones that were already made. Okay, so those are my buttons. One last thing I'm gonna do for the buttons is I'm gonna just change the color to white down here, and so that it'll make it easier to add color later. I could just give them a color now too. Applying close. Okay, and then the button hole, I want to give that a color, and I do want it to be the color that I'm actually going to use later because that's going to export. Maybe I'll just eyedrop something from this palette. So eyedrop, what color is that? Oh, that's pretty dark. Yeah, but honestly, like that kind of like gray blue is not a bad choice. It's probably more saturated is better than less. Ooh. That looks pretty good. Okay. Great. So button plackets now need an underlap. And this I learned. There's a trick to this. When you do when you do kind of like the fold at the edge, there's something you have to tell the buttons to do to make it work. So, before I do that, I kind of want this to maybe have a cuter resolve. I should have done like offset extend instead of offset perpendicular, but I can just do it manually. That's fine. That's cute. Okay. That's that. That's that. I think this one, yeah, this one should have, I should have done extend instead of perpendicular. We can rebuild. I want that pink line and I want that line. Okay, I think that worked. Same here. Sometimes when the pink line doesn't appear, I just like overshoot and then go back. Okay. That looks good. That looks... Actually, I'm gonna make this total length 0.75. I think it'll just look nice. And then you can go there, change length. Whenever you are making any edits, you always have to go back and make sure the sewing lines match the edits that you made. Because if something just like isn't looking right, it's probably because the sewing line is weird. Change length. Change length. Oh, I think I just do it like this. Right. Okay. Cute. All right. So that's good. That's good. That one was already at 90, so that's fine. And yeah. Gonna go with it. All right. Click, click, click. Offset pattern outline again. We want to extend, create internal line, and then we want it to go back the amount that it came out plus the amount that it came out. So distance 0.75 inches. Yes. And you know what, this time, what do I want? I think I do want mirror so that it goes backwards. It would be easier if I could see that. I'm pretty sure that's what I want. Let's find out. Yeah, that is what I want, because now this is going to fold back to go that way. And to do that, I'm actually going to use the fold tool. Fold, fold, fold. Let's do it one at a time. Fold that right under there. And we want to make sure that's not colliding. I might need to see monochrome surface a little bit there. Fold, fold, fold. Very handy. Fold, 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 fold. Okay, a couple things need to happen here. One, I need to unbutton my buttons. I know, tragedy. So unbutton the buttons, and then I am probably gonna have to undo the sewing underneath here so that those can fold under. We'll see if that will work. You know what? It could have been worse. It really could have. I'm gonna go ahead and sew this there. So that's gonna hold that in place. Yeah. Oh no. What's going on with you? Sometimes when the folds just like aren't cooperating, I just tell it who's boss by strengthening the pieces, and it just like really reinforces the folds. And you know, because I didn't underlap it totally all the way, I can also go in and add more fold information. Oh, that's just being held in place by that waistband. So I'm going to kind of like underlap these. Let's go ahead and button these again. I think we can. Actually, no, before we do that, let's tell it some intense fold information. So just selecting those, fold angle 0. So that's like the most folded it will fold. And that's going to help us in this next step, because now it's like we basically pressed it perfectly flat. And I can go ahead and fasten those buttons now. Oh, okay, that's already fastened. And then fasten these buttons, simulate, and then see where it wants to be. And now here's the trick. Here's the trick that I learned. It's very important. The buttons are going to be mad because they're like, they don't understand why they have to go through multiple layers in order to be buttoned. So if I go to edit buttons, select all, right click, set number of sewing layers. So number of sewing layers is 2. Okay, and look what it does. It puts like a little sample of the image down here of like this is the buttonhole, and then here's the other layer the buttonhole is going through, like the underlap. And same with the button, so that it knows that's actually kind of like, it's like you sewed through both layers instead of just like putting a buttonhole through like the bottom of the underlap or sewing the button. Anyway, it works really well. So now actually, in addition to that fold line being there, everything's being held in place by the buttons being sewn to multiple layers. And you can actually move these around in case it sewed it badly. Like if that wasn't exactly in the middle, it could be like over here. I'm not gonna do that because it'll be mad. But if for some reason, like, you know, I didn't for sure that fold was like perfectly in there, it could do that. So where are we now? Yeah, okay, a couple things that I'm going to do to this as well is I'm going to click these fold lines that we have, and I'm going to right click offset as an internal line, and I'm going to go 0.125 on, and then both sides, extend is fine. And basically I'm adding more internal lines on either side of that fold, so that, you know, you can see it looked kind of chunky before I did this. Let me undo so you can see. Okay, see the chunky? That's where basically the geometry is saying, I'm gonna go to mesh view. Geometry, oh, that didn't really help at all. Okay, this right here, what's happening here, it's like there's not enough geometry here. So when I offset this as an internal line on both sides, it adds like a line of geometry along those lines, and it creates, it's allowed to like bend there now, where it was trying to bend before, but there wasn't geometry to support it. Now it just like actually can bend, which is why it looks a lot nicer. And here's the thing, this is something that I started doing on this project. I don't really know, and on this project so far, it has not seemed necessary to retopologize these garments, which I typically do in Marvelous Designer. And I'm happy to do a little video on that process. I'm going to be doing it for a different game later this week. But on this game, we think we can get away with not doing it. So we're going to see how far we can get with this demo before we do it. That being said, the process of retopologizing, I'm basically getting rid of all of these nasty, yes, I said it, nasty triangles, because they take up a ton of data and they're like really hard to weight paint and make move around an animated body and just select and manipulate in general. They're very difficult to like navigate while making a game. So I make them into not perfect, but I try, like functional quads. So 4 corners. Of course, in CLO, I can just like right click any of these meshes. In fact, I'm just gonna do it mesh type quad. I can change it into a quad. But the logic in which these lines between all of these points, you know, this one's actually kind of quite nicely following the neckline. You know what? I don't know, why am I not doing this? This is actually pretty good. They didn't do too bad, but it's definitely gotten better. But the logic in which it follows maybe isn't necessarily what I would want it to. Although this is actually looking pretty good. Okay. Yeah, well, there's like, you can see there's kind of some mess here. Like, why is it? Oh, it's because I have that dart there. Okay. I might be reconsidering everything that I know, because it's not ideal, but it's definitely better than the triangles as far as using in a game. You know what? We're just hold on. Little test, live and real here. Okay, quad, optimize. All of it's gonna be quads now. We're gonna see what happens. You can see just the amount of quads too is literally half as many triangles. Okay, I'm gonna go back to monochrome surface. I'm gonna go ahead and unstrengthen those bad boys, and I'm gonna simulate just to see what happens. I should have saved before I hit space. Okay. Okay. You guys, this is pretty good. We're just going to continue forward with it this way and see what happens. And I'm going to make a little note. Quads? Question mark? And maybe add that to my workflow. I do have in another document a list of like everything I need to do to get this ready to export from CLO and into Blender for the next set of things I need to do. So there's what is called a pipeline that you know, there's certain things I have to do in CLO before I export into Blender, and there's things in Blender I have to do before I export into Substance Painter, and then there's things I have to do in Substance Painter. And right now in this workflow is pretty much ending with Substance Painter, which is nice because sometimes it goes back and forth a couple times. But anyway, there's a list of like everything I need to check off, which is really helpful because if you forget one thing and you end up like you won't realize it until you end up like 2 programs later, and then you have to like back it up, basically start over with the export. So I'm gonna kind of maybe add that in because this is really not bad, and I'm not even kidding. The amount that this like optimizes things is pretty significant. Again, we're gonna see how far as we get. This might have been something that would have been better to do at the very end before I do any more work, but let's just keep going and see what happens. Okay, speaking of that list, I have it open here on my other computer. Finishing. Okay, so the very first thing I have on this list is design. Great, that's done. Then I have fit, which is pretty close, if not done. The finishing, hems, facings, plackets. Okay, so we just did the placket, and I don't think there's anything more I need to do on that. Sometimes, and I could make that decision on this garment, sometimes I will actually, you know, top stitch this placket down on the other side. It kind of gives it some more detail, but I don't know. I don't think that that's the vibe of this dress. I think it's a little bit more delicate. I don't know. It's kind of like an aesthetic thing. And this is really like, you know, I'm out of the design phase. Like I've created this little rendering down here. I showed it to the client. They approved it. Like in theory, the design is over, right? No, it's never over. As like a now garment technician, like there is so many creative decisions to be made that have to do with communicating character. Do I want to have, you know what, I'll try it when we get to the top stitching, when it's top stitching time, and then we'll see if we like it. Okay, hems. How's the bottom of this doing? I really actually think that the hem looks very nice, even though I changed the fabric. I think that's still a nice balanced hem, so I'm going to keep that. And now we can offset the amount that we want. Oh, I should go ahead and, I don't know if I should do this, but I'm just sewing these for now. I should add buttons. If I sew them, I don't really need all of this extra stuff in there, so I'm just being indecisive. Yeah, that's the other question. Will it simulate slower with quads? Question mark. It shouldn't because it's taking less information. Ugh. What is that? Oh. Oh, I see. I need to make a decision. Buttons or no buttons? What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. Should I add buttons down here or leave it? It'll be cute. And then I don't have to worry about adding a zipper, even though I don't have to worry about that anyway. Okay, buttons. let's do, I feel like 0 is the first one. Let's do 0.125. And then they were 1.5 apart, and then see what it's 7. It could just end like there, because as long as it goes below her hip, then it's enough to unbutton to take down. So let's just do that. Great. Okay. And then we can end the placket now here. So let's see if I go X. Let's do 10.5. And then now offset that. Add perpendicular internal line, local, reverse. Okay, all I'm doing is making a perfectly square situation out here, and then I'm going to cut it. Cut that off. Cut. And now I can delete these pieces so that the button placket ends there, and then below that point, it's just sewn. Let's see how well that simulate. I think we made the right choice. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I made some logical error. Undo. Undo. Okay, here's what I did. It has to be cut here, not there. Undo, because it has to underlap. Wait, no, that doesn't make any sense. No, it does make sense. Oh no, my brain. Did that make sense? If I cut it here, because then that. No, it does make sense. Cut. We're going back, you guys. This is what I do all day. Let's try just simulating that first before we sew it, to give it a fair chance. No, it doesn't make sense. That's why. Because, okay, it does just have to be like off center from that point down. This is where, here we are. This is where I have to look and see how these dresses are made, because at some point, this just like does have to carry all the way down, or else there's just a weird little intersection, and that's not making sense. I need an example. Oh, I don't want to. Okay, here's what I do. We'll see what we find. All right, for anything from like the, and this is set in France, so I should probably be looking at a French auction website. But for like most things in like the 19th century, I can actually search the past sales of this website called Augusta Auctions. And dress, it's like a shirtwaist dress. See if that comes up with a thing. In the eras, 1920 to 1949, sort by era, descending, and that'll put the 40 stuff at the top. Oh, look. Yeah, okay, great. These, and like I said, these are American, but maybe, oh, and she does, look at that little button placket. Show me further down. How do you resolve? Okay, that one goes all the way down. Good for her. I can't believe how fast I found this. I was so anxious. Okay, show me in more detail what is happening, because I think hers ends. Open image, a new tab. Can I zoom in? That is not good enough. Let's see what else we got. 3 crepe afternoon dresses. Wait a second. Hers? The buttons just end like mine do. I feel very justified in my choices right now. How does she get it off? There must be a side zipper. And you know, I think I was looking, because I'm kind of like wanting to design her somewhere in between the 40s and the 30s. Like she's a little bit dated, but this kind of has that same kind of like 19. There must just be a side zip. I'm sorry. That is the look that I like. So I'm gonna go back. Oh, yeah, I'm going back. Everyone really gets a genuine sense of how I work as a human being right now, and it is rough. Okay, delete that, and yeah, deleting that. And there's no, if I delete this point and there's a curve, it'll be trouble, but I don't think there is. So there we go. Just a happy ending. I think that's good because it's gonna start creating issues with the pockets anyway, and keeping this dress simple will only make it easier. Okay, wow, what an adventure. Let's just double check that hem again. Yep, hem's still looking hemtastic. All right, let's add the hem. And more theory, in case our brains don't hurt too much by now. The wider the amount of skirt in the hem, the narrower the hem has to be, especially if there's like a curve to it. So it really has to do with that curve, because if you have a deep like 3-inch hem on this like kind of curved skirt, like you're gonna have to gather all that hem and it's not gonna lay flat. So you know, we're conserving fabric. It's like, I might just do inch and a half. Let's try an inch and a half. I just think that'll look nice. So offset pattern outline, we want to mirror 1.5. We're gonna add that internal line, and then we want to offset the internal line on the ends. Oops. I thought I did it on the back too. Same on the back. Okay, and then we want to grab that internal line and then offset that as an internal line. And since we're going to sew it to it, we want it to be that same 1.5 inches. And we don't want both sides. Okay. Oh, it did it on the other side. Do offset internal line, reverse direction. Okay. And I'm going to delete, I believe I'm grabbing the internal line there. Okay. And now we're just going to fold those on up. And actually do need to sew that offset together. And then the back to the back. And the front to the front. I could also just extend the other sewing, but sometimes I decide to delete that later, so. I clearly made a mistake. Who is sewn to what? It's those side. Where is the mistake here? We love to undo. Yeah, that looks great. And now let's go ahead and sew this here and this here. We'll see how much that kind of crinkles the hem. If they're different lengths, then it's bound to happen. Yeah, not too bad. But that same thing that we did, okay, that's pretty cute actually. Same thing that we did up there, we're just gonna grab these fold lines, offset as internal line 0.125, both sides, extend. Great. And then that's just going to really smooth that out. I wonder what that geometry looks like now that it's quadrilateralized. I should have really been doing this earlier. I do not want to go back and make everything into quads, but I might have to. Okay. And I like this kind of imperfection here, I think it kind of adds some realism to the garment, even if in real life it would be like horrifying for that to happen. I'd be pressing the crap out of that, but kind of in this space adds a little bit of charm. I did want to check mesh. So you can see when I add those internal lines, it just creates where that internal line isn't, even if I like hide. Yeah, hide the internal lines. You can see it puts one right there. I might consider making it a little bit less than a 1/4 inch, but yeah, that's looking nice. And I bet as soon as I take this into Blender, I'll be like, oh my gosh, that saved so much. Let's see. Oh, look at her. Cute, 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 cute. What a gal. All right. Let's go ahead and do something similar. No, we wanted to add some bias to the sleeves. That's what we're gonna do. And that one, I'm gonna pretend like it's like, what kind of stitch? Like it's just like a really light, like just invisible hem, like hand stitched hem in the sleeve. So I don't think I'm gonna top stitch this bias tape into place. But let's go ahead and make some. See what happens. All right, sleeves. If I know that this is sewn to that and that is sewn to that. Are there like, no, I want them to create now points on this outer edge. How can I do that? Can I just, what happens if I say, I know if I say extend, trim, and add point to pattern outline, it will, but I don't think there's a way. If it's 2 internal lines crossing, then I can ask it to put a point at that intersection, but I don't know that there's a way. So I might just do this. I might just lock my internal line so that it doesn't accidentally put a point on one of those, and then use my cut tool, cut there, cut there, cut there, and cut there. And now I have distinct like seam lines that I can add bias tape to. And it looks like 9.749. That's almost a perfect 9.75. That makes me so happy. All right, bias tape. I'm just gonna make it one with, let's see, probably let's do 0.5 inch, no, 9.75 long by 1/2 inch tall. Okie dokie. And of course, it does not come in on the bias. I'll have to do that later. Because I'm sewing multiple sides to just one side, I'm going to use the M to N free sewing tool. So, here, enter, sewing here to here, here to here, here to here. And now where even are you? All the way over here. Now I use my favorite thing, which is superimpose under. Wait. Oh, you know what, you guys? I made a fatal mistake. Hold on. I didn't actually sew this, and so I could not superimpose it under. Enter. And then enter. There you go. Now it's sewn, and now I can superimpose under. I should really do some pattern organizing so that, because I really thought that was going to go to that sleeve. Okay, so now you're there, and then I simulate. I can't tell. Is this even underneath or is this on top? Yes, it is underneath. Yay! Okay, so now that's kind of giving that realistic kind of, you know, roundness at the hem that one would expect. And literally, like I said, I will be deleting. I actually will probably offset this piece just a little bit, like an internal line, and then I'm going to delete everything but that internal line, so that way there's just like still a little lip on the inside. But what's most important is that it's simulating this garment as if that is there. I should probably do some controlling of like what direction these tucks are facing. I wonder if now that that's there, if it's going to actually enjoy me doing this. I should probably sew it, is what I should do. Yeah, it's mad. Okay. Undo. There we go. Should probably sew that. All right. What direction do I want the tucks to go? Is there any indication in the pattern? Well, certainly not there. What about in the picture? It looks like they're kind of both going towards the front. So I'm gonna do some sneaky sewing here, if with the M tool. Okay, so I'm going to sew. This must be sewn to. Let me deactivate this really quick. Oops. Yeah. I know. Yeah, that's bugging me out to see. So it's that. Okay, so this to here. I guess it's 0.4 inches. Gets sewn this way. Will it work? Yeah. Okay. That's probably a good idea. Let's do the same over here. I'm anal, so 0.4. I don't know why it's not off. Oh, there it is. And it's probably best that it's kind of ends just before that fold line. Sometimes being perfect is not actually helpful. I know it's hard to hear. It's hard for me to hear. Okay. I wonder how that other sleeve's doing. All right. Let's activate this. And okay, yeah. Please don't come out this side. It did. I think there is a way that I can change the stitching order so that it knows that the other side needs to be stitched first, but I'm actually just gonna do the long way around and just see if it helps since I've stitched those now. If I then stitch this, it just changes the stitching order and it'll make it want to maybe not burble out. Superimpose under just to be safe, even though it's literally right there. The superimpose under also kind of creates a temporary like order in which things need to be in. It might just be that that is so squishy under there that it's mad. I really need to decide how long I want to fight this, because it was kind of fine. Or I could use a tack instead of sewing it. Maybe let's try that. And tack. Tack there to like there to like. Wait, no. That's wrong. Undo. We are coming up on an hour, so actually after an hour. So after I tackle this tacking issue, I'll probably take a little break, but I actually do need to get this project done today. So I will stream again because I think that even for my own posterity, this is very helpful to have recorded so I know, remind myself of my process for future projects. Wow, it literally was fine, and then I started doing this. Did I even tack in the right direction? Yes. It just doesn't love it. It's not living its best life. Another thing that I'm going to just do really quick is offset this to create a little bit more geometry. It's going to happen anyway, so it actually might help. Offset as internal line, and it's that same 0.125 reverse direction, extend. That way. I think it does take longer to make geometry when it's quadrilaterating it, but maybe that's just me trying to stream and think at the same time. Let's see if that helped. It did literally the opposite of help. Okay. Let's just try doing it the manual way and asking it nicely and not forcing it to do what I want it to do. Okay, come on, Tux. Oh, that is still sewn. Oh, interesting. I never unsaid that. That's drama. So sometimes I just like take 10, 100 million years doing this, and then other times I'm like, okay, time to get the select mesh box tool out, and I will just grab it like this, and then manually force it to go under. I cannot see what's happening here. Okay, cute. You guys, this is gonna be me for the next 10 minutes. Why did I do this to myself? Wait, is it settling down? No, it's not. Okay, we're undoing. The really great thing is CLO keeps such a long history that sometimes when this happens, I will just serial undo. We gotta go so far, but I'm gonna go ahead and undo this. I'm gonna take a quick break, and then I'm gonna come back, and I think I can get this finished on stream today. So thanks for everyone who tuned in. Sorry to have such a anticlimactic midway point that ends with like 100 undos. I know this. I can go to the history and find where I want to undo to and do that, but oh look, I think we almost made it. I'm doing this instead, so make sure there's no sewing. Go away, sewing. Okay. We have to have a happy ending. Superpose under. All right, we'll come back to that. All right, I'll see you all in a little bit. Thanks for watching.